express our belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in this house. And I'm doing this. I'm doing this, honorable members, with the understanding that mothers play a very important role in constructing society, because there is a belief that whether we like it or not, the basic construction of society starts with the family. Therefore, a mother plays a very strategic role, an important and central role. And it is that unit that will therefore in a prosperous South Africa. Therefore, I would ask if there's any member who wishes to present a motion before us. Notice. Can you just take you? You may start, honorable member, whilst I'm noting other members.
Chairperson, can we confirm, is it with or without notice?
With.
With notice, yes. Thank you. Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move with notice that this House notes that our municipalities are losing vast amounts of limited funds due to theft of copper in the electrical cables. The 3 metros in Gauteng are currently losing 1 million rand per month in cable theft, and it is estimated that nationally 500 million rand in copper is being exported. We wish that this House debates the necessity of amending the Second Hands Good Act, number 6 of 2009, and the International Trade Administration Act, number 71 of 2002, to ensure that copper trading becomes a serious criminal offence, closing all loopholes in the same.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move that the House debates the Section 38 inquiry report released by Judge Bernard Ngwepe on the 7th of May 2018, confirming the harm caused by Minister Batlhabile Dlamini. Further notes that retired Judge Ngwepe was appointed by the Constitutional Court in August 2017 to inquire and report on the ongoing debacle at SASSA, specifically to advise the court on whether Minister Dlamini had handpicked advisors to lead work streams that were set up as parallel mechanisms reporting directly to the minister, opposed to those within the institution, and which directly undermined institutional efforts in meeting Constitutional Court deadlines, as well as the undermining of the basis of the Constitutional Court judgment declaring the Department of Social Development contract with service provider CPS to be invalid on grounds of irregular tender procedures. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lund.
On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move that this House debates the successes and failures of provincial governments in South Africa since the start of the 5th Parliament in 2014. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Isaac.
Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move with notice that this House calls upon the task team established by COGTA to report back on their investigation into the dire state of the Thaba-Chewe municipality in Mpumalanga. A forensic investigation was initiated by MPAC, and the damning results arrived at by an independent body, not affiliated to any person or any political party, was then handed to the mayor of Thaba-Chewe. This forensic report is being withheld from the community and public, as well as the media, which has resulted in a severe violent reaction from the community. Chairperson, we cannot continue to play politics with people's lives and destroy businesses, resulting in further job losses. I want to call on this House, Chairperson, that this House please resolve to debate the state of the Tabache municipality in Mpumalanga. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kone.
Thank you, Chair, Deputy Chair, a member of the Northern Cape Province. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters that this House note the massacre of the people of Gaza by the brutal and ruthless apartheid state of Israel. It has imposed a military occupation on their land for other half a century. Palestinians live in a permanent racist and military occupation despite many resolutions of the United Nations against Israel's occupation. We support the struggle of the Palestinian people, and we cannot stand by and watch as they are butchered by the murderous apartheid Israel government. For years, the people of Palestine have called for the world to isolate Israel through boycotts, divestments, and sanctions to force Israel to end its illegal and colonial occupation of Gaza and the West Bank. While we welcome the decision by the South African government to recall its ambassador to Israel, but this is not enough. South Africa must expel the Israel mission to our country as an example to the whole world. Thank you. I so move.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mpambo Sibukwane.
On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move that this House debates the national state of health with a particular emphasis on the negative impact on the oncology department of KZN KwaZulu-Natal and Steve Biko and Sharat Maxake hospitals in Gauteng. State hospitals in these provinces has been turning away sick patients with cancer in need of medical care due to issues such as shortage of doctors and a lack of machinery specific to chemotherapy. I so move, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. May I take the last motion by Honorable Erplank?
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move a notice of a motion that this House debates the appalling state of roads in South Africa and the negative impact it has on the economy, on economic activity in the affected areas, with an emphasis on a turnaround strategy. I so move. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we shall now proceed to motions without notice. Your hands are being noted. May I start with Honorable Khai.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. I hereby move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the Council note with utmost concern ongoing political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, which has led to the murder of several people for nefarious political reasons that are driven by criminality and the need to silence political opponents and their families. 2. Further note that last Friday, Councillor Musa Wenkosi Makata Mchunu, who was a local councillor of the African National Congress in the Lower South Coast in KwaZulu-Natal and the ANC branch regional convener in the Moses Mabhida region, was brutally killed as he was exiting his vehicle at his home in Kwapata in Pietermaritzburg. Acknowledges that the political killings and violence in province have reached a crisis level that demonstrate utter disregard of the law and human life, and take this opportunity to convey its heartfelt condolences to the family of Councillor Musa Wenkosi Makata Mchunu for the loss of a tireless servant who dedicated his entire life to working for his community and serving the ANC. Calls on the Minister of Police to wage a concerted battle against political killings and ensure that the perpetrators are made to face the full might of the law. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is therefore agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Khah. The handwriting here is very, very terrible, man. Mutara. This is not Mutara. Makwewu is here. You are on the list, but the second member is Mutara. I'll use my handwriting now from now on.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that on behalf of the ANC, Council notes the ruling of Judge Gamble's order on the Democratic Alliance's termination of the membership of the Western Cape Metropolitan Councillor Patricia de Lille, and further notes that ruling of Judge Gamble effectively means that Mayor Patricia de Lille returns to be Mayor of the City of Cape Town with immediate effect, putting in utter shambles any plans to appoint an interim mayor and mayoral committee. We also take this opportunity as well to welcome the return of former Eastern Cape Premier Nosimo Balindlela, who left the ANC to join the DA in 2012. We take this opportunity to welcome Comrade Nosimo Balindlela back to the ANC and express its utmost concern about the crisis that is facing the City of Cape Town, which is most definitely going to affect the delivery of services to the people in Cape Town. I so move.
There is order, honorable members. Is there any objection to the motion? Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I put the question to the House again. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, the motion shall therefore become a notice of a motion. Honorable Engelbrecht. Honorable Engelbrecht.
Chair, thank you. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this House condemns the fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 27 million rand that was wasted by the ANC Ekurhuleni municipality to build shacks against the wishes of the Tambo informal settlement. Instead of using this money, like a DA government would, to build decent RDP homes. This House condemns the fact that these shacks were built around open mine shafts and sinkholes, an area unsuitable for human habitation. And this House condemns the excessive 34,200 rand, excluding VAT, that was spent on just 40 square meter structures each. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Okay, can I hear the point of order?
That statement is completely untrue.
Okay. You see, the way we craft our motions, that is what I've learned. Members would start and then raise an issue in the middle of a motion. And therefore, I will caution that let our motions be clear. If a motion says that government builds shacks, then it would not be true, because there is a policy of housing that was introduced in 1994 around the construction of houses. So therefore, honorable member, I'll put it to you in a question form. Did you say that government had built shacks? Well, what is the point, Honorable Julius?
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. This is a motion without notice. The member has every right to object to it. Every right to object to it, and that is the rule that stands. There's no rule here that says You must correct yourself because otherwise the people feel that you might not know what happened there. You might not know what happened in Ekurhuleni. So the member is speculating now at this stage. Although there's a policy, people can still build shacks. A municipality can make a mistake. So it's based on that. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for that intervention. I just wanted to check because I didn't pick that one up. But nevertheless, Honorable Julius is absolutely correct. It's your motion. You say whatever you like. If there's an objection to the motion, let there be an objection to the motion. Now, I'm putting the question to the House. I agree with him. He's absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. Is there any objection to the motion? Therefore, in the light of an objection, the motion shall therefore become a notice of a motion. Honorable Stoke.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the ANC that the Council notes with sadness the death of the traditional leader of the Kun and Kwe community in the Northern Cape, Reverend Kapilolo Mario Mahongo. Chief Mahongo died in a car accident near the Platfontein settlement outside Kimberley on Sunday, the 13th. Chief Mahongo was also a performer and a traditional storyteller who was part of the Kulumaji Inje project, which recorded the San music performed by his community. Therefore, send our heartfelt condolences to the family and the Kun and Kwe community in this time of the bereavement. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? Therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that the House notes that the 7th December 2017 report by Werksman Law Firm found that Brian Molefe lied to the Transnet board to inflate the controversial 1,064 locomotive tender from which Gupta family-linked businesses scored billions of rands in kickbacks from 38 billion to 54.5 billion. This is a difference of 16.5 billion rand in the tender. The transaction is described as cloaked in corrupt and reckless activity. The report recommended that the conduct of Molefe, current Transnet Chief Executive Siyobonga Gama, and former Transnet Rail Freight Chief Procurement Officer Samsankwa Jijaya should be investigated. Further, Minister Pravin Gordhan also criticized the Transnet board and accused it of deliberately stalling on taking action against individuals implicated in corruption worth billions of rands. This House requests that the relevant select committee conducts a thorough investigation based on this report and all persons involved in corruptions be charged criminally. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, the motion shall therefore read as a notice of a motion. Honorable Mpambo Sibukwan.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, for the opportunity. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that the House commends the agreement reached during the negotiation proceedings with trade unions representing bus workers and congratulates the role players who were able to negotiate the end of the strike as it severely affected people's ability to get to work, which resulted in higher transport costs over the past month. The return of bus service will ensure stability and certainly in the daily lives of commuters who have been mostly affected by the strike. I so move, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? In the absence of any objection, therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Julius.
Baie dankie, Voorzitter. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move without notice that Council notes the inaction by the ANC in the Northwest Province is hampering service delivery. The hard-headed stance of the Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo and subsequent failure by the ANC to fire him leave this province in limbo. That Mahupelo resigned as Premier, sending the letter to himself as ANC chairperson, followed by chairing the urgent PEC meeting he himself called, which rejected the resignation letter that he wrote himself, then placed himself on special leave and appointed his co-accused, Ms. Wendy Nelson, as acting Premier. And instead of firing his alleged corrupt Premier, the ANC, led by President Ramaphosa, is now abusing government interventions to deal with a purely political matter because they cannot discipline their own comrades. I so move.
Thank you very much. Before I ask the House, you referred to somebody by saying Mahupelo. Did you want to say Mahumapelo? I heard you saying Mahupelo.
Maybe that's what you heard, but I say Mahumapelo.
Okay, that is why I wanted to check with you whether if you are clear. Honorable members, is there any objection to the motion? In the light of an objection, therefore, the motion shall read as a notice. Honorable Kaula.
Ngiyathokoza Sekela kaSihlalo ohloniphekile. What are you talking about?
Withdraws.
Ngiyathokoza Sihlalo ohloniphekile on behalf of Inkatha Freedom Party. At the next sitting of the House, I shall move that the House express its deepest condolences to the Dlamini family, relatives and friends on the passing away of Councillor Sibuyiselo Dlamini on Friday, 11th of May, 2018. Councillor Dlamini was brutally murdered by a gunman in Ulundi whilst driving home from community service in the late afternoon. Comrade Sibuyiselo was a member of the IFP National Council, an executive committee member of the Zululand District Municipality, chairing the Planning Portfolio Committee of the municipality, the IFP Youth Brigade chairperson of Zululand District, and Comrade Sibuyiselo was a hardworking and dedicated member and leader of the IFP Youth Brigade and the IFP. He is survived by his fiancée, Ms. Nombuso Skakane, his mother, Mrs. Makabela Dlamini, his son, Ketelo, and 3 brothers and 1 sister. In conclusion, the IFP calls upon the law enforcement agencies of our country to do everything in their power to ensure that his killers and their masters who sanctioned his death are brought to book. Comrade Dlamini will be laid to rest on Thursday, 17th May, 2018 in Ulundi. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to the motion? In the light of...
To notices of motions, Chair. It is important, but it is a notice of a motion. He said he asked the House to in the next sitting.
Can I be allowed to establish, because we are now with notices without motions without notice. Honorable Kaula, what did you say exactly?
Chairperson, my motion is a motion, excuse me, without notice.
Without notice?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Is there any objection to the motion? In the absence of any, therefore, the motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65. Honorable members, let me apologize upfront and appeal to you for your indulgence. We've got 20 minutes for motions in terms of the rules. And I've already allowed motions to go as far as 30 minutes before we even get to the business of the day. And And I can see hands are coming up and so forth. So may you allow me to allow you first preference in the next sitting. Those hands, there's a whole list here of names. So if you agree to that, because we would already, we're already at 30 minutes. The rule says 20 minutes. I gave you 10 extra minutes. So can we proceed then with the business of the House? Secretary, can you read the first notice? There's a point of order, Honorable Member. Can you take a seat?
I just want to know, on what basis do you allow members to speak on motions without notice? Because not a single member from the Western Cape was allowed to speak on a motion without notice. So you just start at the one hand, at the one province, and move to the others, or do you choose one from each province, or can you just decide who you want to allow and who you do not want to allow? Because the perception that gets created, Chair, is that you seldom look to your left when we do these motions. And we will adhere to your request, but this is not the first time this happens. Now, you've already went over 10 minutes, and this doesn't have to become a debate. You can just allow the rest of the people on the speakers list. But that's in your hand, but I'm just raising a perception that there is, and it's not the first time that that perception gets created.
Make a ruling on that. Now, allow me to make a ruling, Honorable Member. The member was raising a point of concern. I might decide, or I might say that it is unjustified. Because even from the Western Cape, Honorable Mpambo Sivugwane, I allowed her. I allowed Honorable Engelbrecht. I allowed to Honorable Terbrand. So it is unfounded. But if it is a concern that is raising, that they wanted to speak on this particular motion, we take note of the concern that is raising. If it's a matter that is suggesting that moving forward, that in dealing with motions, we must first give preferences to provinces and therefore allow other members. But having allowed other provinces, it's a point. It's a point, it's a concern, it's genuine, fine. We can look into that moving forward. Thank you very much. Secretary?
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation, joint oversight visit with the Select Committee on Social Services to the KwaZulu-Natal province.
Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, may I ask for your indulgence, Chairperson, to give the narrative of all the reports seriatim and do the voting thereafter for all of them.
Come again, Honorable Zwane? We are expecting you to report.
Yes, there are 4 reports, Chair. What I'm asking is to give a report on all of them, and then the voting comes at the end of all the reports.
Okay. No. I see the point of Honorable Zwane. No. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. When we have to adopt the report, then we'll go report by report.
Yes.
No, that's how it has been done. Honorable, on what point are you rising, Honorable Member?
Chair. With due respect, re kopa gore mama abale reporto, go votiwe, abale reporto, go votiwe. Re rile yalo ka ntate Sefako. Ga ra itlhaganna re mo mmerekong gofa. Le ka Qimbi once read more than 5 reports.
So she can do the same, Mama. We are not in a hurry. We are here to work. So read and then we will listen. Please.
Honorable members, there is an objection to the suggestion. And I don't want to subject this House. We have never voted on a matter like this. We have never voted. No. I'm saying we have never voted on a matter like this. And nothing prohibits. But if there's an objection, there's nothing that we can do. Honorable Member Zwane, can you present your report?
Thank you, Chairperson. May I present the report of the Select Committee on Education and Recreation as a joint oversight with the Select Committee on Social Services to the province of KwaZulu-Natal that was held on the 4th to the 8th of September 2017. The visit was directed to the institutions of higher education as well as institutions under the Department of Arts and Culture, and also institutions under Sports and Recreation. One institution that was visited by the committee in terms of the oversight mandate as per the Constitution was the University of KZN. Both the institutions that we visited under higher education, the University of KZN and the eThekwini TVET College, were institutions that had certain serious challenges that we had to go and look into as a committee. Such challenges and observations by the committee were the NSFAS issue that is problematic in most of the higher education institutions that has not been thoroughly dealt with by NSFAS offices and the Department of Higher Education. The issue also of infrastructure. When we visited the University of KwaZulu-Natal, we found that the problem that they had was accommodation for students. And the problem also was that they did not have sufficient money to erect accommodation for students. And there was infrastructure backlog insofar as also the lecture rooms are concerned. There were also issues of governance where there was a problem of being able to get senior lecturers that are taking the job with the university. With regard to eThekwini TVET College, again, the institution is badly dilapidated. There was no cooperation between the lecturers and the SRC and the college council. And there was also issues relating to bad governance and misappropriation of funds. The recommendations of the committee was that there needs to be a meeting between all the stakeholders involved, and the committee also suggested or recommended that we take yet another trip back to KZN to go and thresh out this issue. The issue was brought before the attention of the Department of Higher Education and Training, and the Deputy Minister undertook to go and thresh out the issue. And lastly, the committee recommended that the Department of Higher Education, through the officials in the province, should play a more visible and a more strict role in terms of capping the situation because the students were protesting in that college. With respect to arts and culture, the institution that we visited was the Durban Playhouse. It is an institution that is very well kept, but unfortunately, it is an institution that is not used maximally. And therefore, it needs some kind of concerted marketing. And what we found out also as an observation is that the artists in general in the province are not yet using the institution for purposes of recordings. And also they are hosting some very important festivals, like the Women's Art Festival, the School Shakespeare's Art Festivals. And our recommendations was that, one, because this structure is built in the sea, the institution and the Department of Arts and Culture in the province need to ensure that the pumps that are pushing the water back to the sea are always functional. And secondly, there seems to be a trend whereby the festivals that are conducted do not embrace a full rural footprint and African literature and artwork. And we also did recommend that the stories and arts and culture that is performed and preserved there should also embrace the indigenous people in a growing way. And that eThekwini Metro should also assist in funding this institution, and that the Department of Arts and Culture, both nationally and provincially, should assist in ensuring that we relook at the issue of the resident artists that used to be there in times of the apartheid regime. On sports and recreation, we visited Moses Mabhida Stadium. Again, our observation was that this stadium is not maximally used, and it is competing with many other stadiums or stadia in the country. And again, is that the taking or the renting or the selling of the presidential suites is very slow. And there also is a budget maintenance problem, as the stadium is actually exposed to the coastal climate. The recommendations of the committee was that there has to be structural adjustments to meet the operational requirements of the stadium, that also the possibility of bringing in retail shops in order to derive more of income could also assist in pushing up the income that the stadium needs for maintenance purposes, and the need to also increase safety measures in order to prevent vandalism. Chairperson, this is the report of the Select Committee on Education and Recreation on a joint oversight with the Select Committee on Social Services. On behalf of the Select Committee, I then move that the House adopts the report with recommendations from the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate. And as the report is presented or dealt with in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution, I shall first ascertain whether if delegation heads are present in the House. Are they? On the basis of that, we shall then proceed with the voting. Eastern Cape?
Eastern Cape support the report, Chair.
Free State?
Free State, I'm going to report to Chairperson.
Gauteng?
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu-Natal?
KwaZulu-Natal agrees with the adoption of the report, Chair.
Limpopo? Mpumalanga? Can you put it on?
Mpumalanga iyavuma silala.
Northern Cape?
Northern Cape agrees.
Northwest?
We fully support, Chair.
Western Cape?
We support.
All 9 provinces voted in favor, therefore the report is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Yes, can I hear your point, Honorable Mokwe?
I'm just checking in terms of Northwest, who has given the provincial leader the mandate since the province is non-functional.
No, that's not a point of order. It's not considered. Can we then proceed with the second reading, Honorable the Secretary?
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation, joint oversight visit with the Select Committee on Social Services to the Northern Cape Province.
Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. May I present before Council the report of the oversight visit jointly with the Select Committee on Social Services to the province of the Northern Cape on the 31st of August, 2017. The committee visited the Northern Cape Theatre for the purpose of looking at the role played by the theatre in enhancing arts and culture activities in the Northern Cape. The reconstruction of the country into a just and inclusive society cannot be accomplished without drawing on the creative, cultural heritage, resources of all of our people. It is important that arts and culture and heritage infrastructure facilities and resources are extended beyond the urban centers into peri-urban areas and rural communities. The observation of the committee was the following. The theatre had not been active for a period of 6 months, and as such, they had to re-register in the database of National Treasury for them to be able to receive further funding. The theatre was not fully functional, even though it was due to open its doors on the 13th of August in 2017. The lighting mechanism and the sound was in good working condition, although the amount that was spent to install these systems seemed to be excessive in the opinion of the committee. Recommendations of the committee. The Department of Arts and Culture provincially and the Department of Arts and Culture nationally should ensure that the theatre is fully utilized. The last tranche of the amount of 2 million should be paid to the theatre as soon as possible so as to allow the systems to gel and the theatre to operate. The department should ensure that the detailed final report from the consultants is sought and brought before the department and the select committee. The department and the theatre CEO should ensure that the documents that are needed by the National Treasury are submitted timeously. On higher education, we visited Solplaatje University of the Northern Cape, as well as the Northern Cape Urban College. The Solplaatje University is one of the 2 new universities that have been set up post-apartheid in South Africa in response to increasing access to higher education. The source of inspiration for the establishment of the university stems from the ANC's 2014 National Election Manifesto, which committed to establishing 2 new universities by 2019 in an effort to expand and improve the capacity of higher education and training systems. The observation of the committee was as follows. The university is the only one in the country that has recurriculated the Bachelor of Education degree. The university also is the only one in South Africa that offers a Bachelor of Science degree in data science. Students are facing a major funding problem, and it also is difficult with this particular university to be able to get senior leadership in the form of senior lecturers. It was also pleasing to note that the university recognizes the importance of history of indigenous people in the area and has developed good working relations with surrounding communities and provides a free Wi-Fi periodically to the communities around. Committee recommendations: the university should ensure that the recurriculated BA degree responds to the needs of the basic education sector. The university should form partnerships and exchange programs with universities abroad to strengthen the BSc in data science, and the university should advertise widely in order to be able to get properly qualified senior lecturers. We therefore visited the Northern Cape Urban College as well. Technical and vocational education and training are envisioned to become the cornerstone of the country's skills development system. The highest priority in the list in the post-school education system and training sector is to strengthen and expand public sector colleges and turn them into attractive institutions of choice for school leavers. The TVET enrollments are increasing progressively to address the country's acute skills shortage and meet the NDP goal of the headcount of 2.5 million by 2030. Observations of the committee: there is a challenge of shortness of accommodation. There is also a problem with regards to online applications to gain entrance into universities. There was a problem of NSFAS students were not keen on signing the SOPs. The accreditation of workshops was a problem. It was only the construction workshop that was accredited at the time of our visit. And the college had actually appointed a new business manager to approach at least 50 companies by the end of 2017 to form synergies and lobby for the absorption of skilled students. Recommendations of the committee: the college needs to look into the issue of a sick leave that is taken by some of the lecturers. That is very dubious. And the college should find acceptable local available accommodation for students to deal with the accommodation shortage. The college should convince students of the rationale of signing SOPs so that the NSFAS fund can be paid on time. The college should ensure that they engage the relevant sitters to assist with the accreditation of all the workshops. Those were the recommendations from the side of the committee chairperson. On behalf of the Select Committee on Education and Recreation, I move for the acceptance of the recommendations of the committee and the report.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces an opportunity to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. Is there any province that wishes to make a declaration of vote? In the absence of that, then we shall proceed with the voting, and we'll do that in an alphabetical order. Eastern Cape.
The Eastern Cape support, Chair.
Free State.
Free State support, Honorable Chair.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal iyayisekela umbiko
Limpopo. Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga supports, Chair.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
Northwest.
We fully concur.
Western Cape.
Western Cape agrees.
All 9 provinces voted in favor of the report. I shall therefore declare the report is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary.
Of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation, oversight visit to the Robben Island Museum.
Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. May I present the report of the Committee on Education and Recreation on the visit to the Robben Island Museum. Isithwalandwe, Simparakwe, Siamparankwe, former President Nelson Mandela in his address at the Heritage Day celebrations on Robben Island in 1997, made the following remarks. In affirming a joint heritage in this place, we are reminded that our noble ideals were spurred on even more by their long denial that today's unity is a triumph over yesterday's division and conflict. And he went on to say, with democracy, we have the opportunity to ensure that our institutions reflect the history in a way that respects the heritage of all our citizens. The year 2018 marks the centenary of Madiba's birth. It cannot be a time of focusing only on his life. 2018 is full of other significant anniversaries. From the 25th anniversary of both Chris Hanni's assassination and the 1993 negotiated settlements to the centenary of Mama Sisulu. The arts and culture and heritage sector contributes to social cohesion and nation building and economic empowerment. And during the visit, the committee made the following observations. There are issues relating to the governance of the museum. There were issues that are affecting the museum insofar as the collection of revenue is concerned. There were infrastructure issues where there has to be renovation and upgrading into some of the structures without interfering with historical aesthetics. Some of the issues that we observed that are positive is that the museum, the Robben Island Museum, has attained an unqualified audit opinion from 2010 to 2016. And the museum has been able to strengthen and cooperate with other structures to strengthen government and financial controls. And then the other issues that the committee took note of that are part of the challenges is that the current funding model does not take into account the fact that the Robben Island Museum is a World Heritage Site. Funding is required for proper facilities to house my Buya collections. Funding is required for an interpretation center at the Nixon Mandela Gateway to accommodate no boat days when the weather is bad. Funding is required for holistic interpretation of the island to supplement funds derived from National Lottery. There is also huge staff expenditure. The recommendations of the committee were the following. The infrastructure development should be accelerated to finalize its built environment management framework for all the sites to ensure proper planning and maintenance of the buildings. Although the animals like rabbits and the deers are culled, there has to be an explanation to the people as to why that is being done by the island. The Robben Island Museum should ensure that there is a boat that is owned by a black company that is hired to ferry people to the island. Local people should be given an opportunity also to sell their products in the Curo shop. The entity should make way to take back its collection from the University of the Western Cape. The entity should find ways and means to increase their revenue generation. The funding model for the DAC should address the issue that the entity is a World Heritage Site. Chairperson, those were the recommendations of the committee. And on behalf of the Select Committee on Education and Recreation, I move acceptance of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces an opportunity to make a declaration of vote if they so wish. Is there any province that wishes to do that? In the absence of any, we shall then proceed with the voting in an alphabetical order. Eastern Cape,
Eastern Cape, yeah, supporters.
State,
Free State, yeah, Honorable Chair.
Gauteng,
Gauteng support.
Popo. Oh, I marked it before. Okay, KZN.
Sihlalo siyasimukela isincomo sokwamukela kombiko.
Popo. Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga iyavuma sihla.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape ra dumela modula stila.
Northwest.
We agree, Chair.
Western Cape.
Agreed.
Agree.
All 9 provinces voted in favor. I therefore declare the report is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will then read the 4th order.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation, joint study tour with Select Committee on Social Services to Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia.
Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. May I present the report of the joint study tour between the Committee for Education and Recreation and Social Services to Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia, dated the 9th to the 21st July 2017. Starting with Indonesia. The Indonesian education system is the 4th largest in the world, with 54 million students, 3 million teachers, 300,000 schools. Education from primary to high school is compulsory. Primary and middle school education is free, while in the high school there is a relatively small fees that is payable. The completion rate for Indonesian primary school is high. The student-teacher ratio is 19 learners is to 1 teacher. In other institutions, it is 24 is to 1 teacher. There were challenges that we picked up when it relates to ferrying textbooks to other islands and also getting teachers prepared to teach in the remote areas. 20% of the budget of the country goes to education. In the vocational education, there are 4.6 million students, with the majority of them studying in the fields of technology and engineering, constituting 33%, and in the energy and the mining sector, 0.29%. Indonesia wants to have a vocational education system that is competitive and results in students being employable. Singapore. Education in Singapore is managed by the Ministry for Education, and he exercises control on both the public institutions and supervises and advises the private institution. For both the private and the state schools, there are various or varying extents of autonomy in the dispensation of the curriculum. 20% of the budget again goes to education in this country. Vocational education has been an important part of Singapore's unique economic planning since 1992, where it began to transform and change the perception of vocational education and decided to transform the entire sector to be seen not as a place of last resort or as a place of underachieving people. Since 1995, enrollment in the vocational schools has doubled, and now it is sitting at 65% and enrolls students between the ages 16 and 18. Vocational education in this country, Singapore, is inexpensive as compared to university education. And it is 96% subsidized. And some of the students benefit from the bursaries by the private sector. There is what is called a Singapore Discovery Center, which is run in partnership with the National Department of Education. It rolls out some outreach programs, and it is updated regularly to meet the changing needs of the Ministry of Education in Singapore. The hallmark of the Singapore Discovery Center has been experiential learning and supporting the Minister of Education's focus on the kind of education that is student-centric and value-driven, and meeting the demands of the 21st competencies. Malaysia. The Committee on Malaysia focused on higher education. Malaysians operate the Malaysian Blueprint for Education 2015 to 2025. That is the title of the blueprint. It is a clear plan on its higher education, and they have got certain specific focus areas. Malaysia has got 5 research universities specializing only on research, 11 comprehensive universities. The research universities have been improving their world ratings over the years, such that the top-ranked university is number 114 in the world and has improved from 133 during 2016-17 financial year. 11 subjects offered at university level are in the top 50 in the world. And the graduates, 75% of the graduates that are produced by the universities are employable in the country. The study taught by the Select Committee on Education and Recreation was a revelation to the committee, because we learned a lot insofar as the area of the TVET colleges are concerned. And we would implore, if it is possible, the budget allowing, that our departments, affected departments, particularly the Department of Higher Education, goes to learn things from those countries, because the TVET colleges are operating at a very, very high standard. On behalf of the Select Committee on Education and Recreation, Chairperson, I move that this report with the recommendations is adopted by the House.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate. And in accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces an opportunity to make a declaration of vote if they so wish. Is there any province that wishes to? In the absence of any, we shall then proceed with the voting.
Eastern Cape support, Chair.
Free State.
Free State support, Chair.
Okay.
Gauteng support.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal iyamukela ukuphakanyiswa kokwamukela kombiko sihlalo.
Limpopo. Mpumalanga.
Impumalanga iyasekela sihlalo.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
Northwest.
We support, Chair.
Western Cape.
Jona Colonia Xhasa, sekela sihlalo.
In accordance with the fact that all 9 provinces voted in favor, I therefore declared the report as agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 5th order.
Consideration of report
of Select Committee on Land and Mineral Resources, International Study Tour to Australia from 21 to 28 October 2017.
Honorable Sefako.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members, for allowing me to table before the Council the report of the Select Committee on Land and Mineral Resources. This report takes place in a period in which the global community is celebrating the centenary of the icon, the legend, whose words and deeds contributed to the demise of the brutal apartheid regime and laid birth to the democratic South Africa. Chair, the Select Committee on Land and Mineral Resources undertook an international tour, a study tour in Australia during the 21st to the 28th of October 2017. During his State of the Nation address, the former President of the Republic of South Africa, Re Jacob Zuma, focused on a number of challenges that are facing the country, amongst which is the food security. And he stressed some emphasis on Operation Pakisa, the ocean economy, as one of those pillars that can indeed assist in the alleviation of poverty. It is against this background that the Select Committee on Land and Mineral Resources, benchmarked with the Australian aquaculture. There are advances, of course, in terms of the aquaculture policies and legislative framework. The committee visited Australia and quite a number of areas that they visited in Australia, did site visit and engage in the discussion. The committee visited the Department of Agriculture in Australia. Also the one in Brisbane, Port Stevens Fish Institute, and a visit also to Honorable Chair. This is a voluminous document. You will allow me to huitaya mabalaka. The visit to Tailor-Made Fish Farm, Pty Limited. The Tailor-Made Fish Farm has been operating as a fully functional production system for over 19 years and have developed an easy-to-operate, land-based modular fish production system that is both sustainable and environmentally responsible. Production of year-round premium quality fish and vegetable is achieved through compact and controlled production areas, using much less water than conventional methods. It was a very, very important and impressive system, which of course can be easily be utilized in our country. As I've indicated that ke tla itama bala kgaka, I will then go to the recommendations by the committee. The committee intends to study the outcome of the study tour closely when the Aquaculture Act is reviewed with a particular intent to study the policy provisions for enabling aquaculture development, while shouldering as much of the work towards legal compliance and infrastructure development as possible. The committee noted that the Australian model, while not perfect in terms of national, that's federal, and provincial state signage in legislation, provides a clear example of state involvement in developing aquaculture zone, ensuring legal compliance, environmental sustainability, and economic viability. The Australian experience further emphasized the need for strong technical support from government in terms of market access and market stimulations, as well as a dedicated research and development support in order to ensure that companies are able to capitalize local markets and opportunities. The committee further recommends that discussions are held with the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery, as well as its research support institutions regarding aspects of the Australian industry that could benefit South Africa. In particular, the committee proposes investigating closer ties between South African counterparts and the research institutions at Brisbane Island and Port Stevens, with the aim to investigate the following. Investigating the possibility of developing a cobia aquaculture along the Eastern Cape and KZN coastline. Studying the Australian experience regarding developing cost-effective feeds for the kingfish, that's the yellowtail, and Malawi, the carp, and culture technology in order to determine whether the local industry can benefit. Investigating the opportunity to study and potentially use the fortress cage technology under the development in Australia. These nearshore and offshore fish cages hold great potential for high energy shores and could play a role in South African aquaculture. Investigating the possibility of facilitating farmer and student training between DAF and the Port Stevens facilities, analyzing with the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery and the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform in terms of the plans for small-scale family-based aquaculture development, and to investigate the possibility of developing small-scale aquaculture system for a freshwater environments, as were observed at the Banamudi farm of the tailor-made fish farms. I move for the adoption of this report. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the report be agreed to in accordance with Rule 7.1. I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make declaration of votes if they so wish. Honorable Kone.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The study tour to Australia gave insight into how we can use our...
What is that province?
It's a declaration, Northern Cape.
Eh?
It's Northern Cape.
Province.
It's Northern Cape.
Order members.
No, Honorable Chair, thank you very much. As the province, we don't have a mandate, unless if the member is doing a declaration.
No, it's not a mandate, Chair, it's a
Thank you.
declaration.
That is why I wanted to be sure. Honorable Kone, take your seat.
No, it's not a mandate, it's a declaration.
Yeah, but it's done in accordance with Rule 7.1. In terms of Rule 7.1, it's provinces. Okay. So you must have a mandate from the province. We shall now proceed to voting on the question. I shall do it in alphabetical order. Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape iyavumelana sihlalo.
Free State.
Free State iyadumela, Chair.
Yeah, let me finish this. Gauteng.
We agree, Chair.
KwaZulu Natal.
KwaZulu Natal ivumelana nombiko osihlanu.
Limpopo.
Limpopo agrees.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga agrees.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape iyayixasha mhlale ngaphambili.
Northwest.
Fully mandated to agree, Chair.
Western Cape.
First up on the CN.
Thank you.
No point
9
of order.
provinces voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Thank you.
On a point of order, Chair.
Thank you.
On a point of order. I just want to check as to why is a delegate from Northern Cape was not given an opportunity to put in the declaration.
It's because one is not the head of the delegation. Two, it's because we're doing this thing in terms of Rule 71, and it's very clear how to do that.
In terms of the very same rule, Honorable Chair, neither of the head of delegation, especially from the Northern Cape, has ever discussed, yes, I'm a chief whip of my delegates, has never been given a mandate to negotiate with the delegates from the very same province. So it cannot be that the member from the very same province is denied an opportunity to put in a declaration. But because you have ruled in my absentia how I so wish I was in the House to defend our declaration, because what you did, Chair, is totally wrong.
Thanks, Honorable Mokwele. I'm not going to subject it to a discussion. The secretary will read the sixth order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations. Oversight visit to the Gauteng metropolitan municipalities, Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, and Tshwane during the period 4 to 5 September 2017 to assess spatial development through utilization of conditional grants.
Honorable De Pierre, Chairperson of Select Committee on Appropriations.
Honorable Chairperson, metropolitan municipalities are the urban centers where economic growth and employment creation can be driven. There are, however, challenges related to spatial legacies of the past that resulted in spatial fragmentation and low-density settlement patterns. The spatial fragmentation of urban areas deepen inequality and the exclusion of the poor and are a constraint to economic growth, thus weakening fiscal sustainability. Metropolitan municipalities face three major urban
Sorry,
development
Honorable De
priorities.
Pierre. Honorable De Pierre, let me take Honorable Shabang. Honorable Shabango, why are you standing?
I'm standing because you said Honorable De Beer is the chairperson. He's the acting chairperson, not the chairperson.
The correction, it's in order, it's sustained. Continue, acting chairperson of appropriation. No, I'm agreeing with you. Yes. Yeah, it's acting of appropriation. You are correct. Thank you. Continue, Honorable De Pierre.
Let's get serious. Metropolitan municipalities face three major urban development priorities. First, spatial integration that seeks to expand access to affordable, integrated human settlements and improve mobility through investment in integrated public transport systems. Secondly, the need for expanded investment in core infrastructure that supports inclusive densification in targeted urban integration zones, universal access to basic services, asset refurbishment and replacement. Thirdly, identified priority is a deeper access to private financing to expand resources available for investment through longer tenure debt, broader participation and innovation in financial instruments and less reliance on conditional grants. The objectives of the oversight visit were to assess the spatial development programs of the Gauteng metros as well as the utilization of conditional grants when addressing the fragmentation of the spatial development. Also assess the spending patterns of the various grants, evaluate whether the infrastructure projects have met the objectives, evaluate the expanded investment in core infrastructure development, and assess whether municipalities have maintenance plans in place for the infrastructure delivered. What was our observation, Chair? The spatial development programs of the three metros are geared towards pro-poor development with the aim of addressing the inequalities of the past, driving future growth towards creating inclusiveness and ensuring that services are rolled out to informal areas. All three metros' spatial development programs are aligned with the National Treasury Spatial Development Framework for cities. All three metros were spending their conditional grants allocations accordingly with the aim of ensuring the implementation of the spatial development frameworks. The metros, however, had challenges in spending and reporting regularly with regard to the Integrated City Development Grant. The committee inspected two housing projects, one by the City of Johannesburg and the other by the City of Tshwane, and these projects meet the spatial objectives of integration and inclusiveness in terms of being mixed income housing projects. All three metros reported a high degree of compliance with regard to the national norms of access to basic services. However, it is difficult to determine whether poor households are being provided with the adequate provision to basic services as the reports by the three metros referred to service delivery to all households. All three metros were working towards building an integrated transport network for Gauteng through the bus rapid transport system and expanding the routes. The BRT systems are operational in the cities of Johannesburg and Tshwane. Ekurhuleni municipality, however, is experiencing some challenges, which include the BRT project that is behind schedule. It was then in 2017. It is supposed to be completed by the end of 2018, and some of the bus stations that were constructed are in a poor state due to the project delays. If we look at the maintenance of infrastructure, all three metros have maintenance plans in place with accompanying budgets. Maintenance and repair allocations increased between 5.4% and 8.8% in the 3 years from 2016 to the end of the 2017-18 financial year. The three metros, if we look at the recommendations, Honourable Chairperson, the three metros should ensure that the four conditional grants are used in a manner that complement each other in order to implement their spatial development plans. The three metros, due to interdependence and interrelatedness, should identify opportunities to create synergies across the spatial development plans in order to maximize spatial urban development objectives. The city of Ekurhuleni should urgently attend to its BRT system, which is behind schedule, as well as the poor state of its infrastructure, such as the station frames that were found in a poor condition. The city of Johannesburg should ensure that its future units within the Land Assembly Integrated Human Settlements project are also user-friendly for people with disabilities. The National Treasury, as well as the sector departments responsible for the various conditional grants, should strengthen their monitoring and support the metros to ensure grant funding is spent in full. The National Treasury, Department of Transport, and the Department of Human Settlements, responsible for the various urban development conditional grants, should provide both financial and non-financial performance reports for the urban development grants for the past 5 years up to the period ending 30 June 2017 to the committee within 30 days after this report has been adopted by the House. The National Treasury should also further provide the committee with the details of the request for rollovers and the outcome thereof for all the urban development grants. Chairperson, I table this report for consideration by the House. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the report be agreed to in accordance with Rule 7.1. I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to voting. Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape iyavumelana sihlalo.
Free State.
Free State siyavuma Chair.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu Natal.
KwaZulu Natal ixhasa umbiko.
Limpopo.
Limpopo yavumelana.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga agrees, Chair.
Northern Cape.
Yayisekela sihlalo.
Northwest.
We agree, Chair.
Western Cape.
Radumelantate.
9 provinces voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 7th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Petitions and Executive Undertakings, hearing of the Africa Skills College petition.
Honorable Qimbi, the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Petitions and Executive Undertakings.
Siyabulela sihlalo. Ndiyabulela uba undiqubulanga namhlanje ndixele kwangoko. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the Africa Skills College petition dated 23rd March 2015, was referred to the Select Committee on Petition and Executive Undertakings by the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces on the 12th June 2015. The petition is signed and submitted by petitioners Mr. Ki Amogetse Force and Ms. Lerato Lubelo on behalf of the learners at the African Skills Further Education and Training College. It's a private registered FET college situated in Thembalethu, George, here in the Western Cape. In the petition, the petitioners level a number of complaints against the college and its management, including that the incumbent principal of the college was dismissed from his previous employment after he was found guilty of fraud and corruption. That the said principal has recruited learners from Kuruman in the Northern Cape province and enrolled them at the college under the false pretenses. That the college failed to pay some learners their full stipends in March 2015. That the college management is made up of only white people, and the wife of the principal is a director at the college, and that the learners fear being intimidated on a daily basis and have been interdicted from exercising their constitutional right to peaceful protest. Following the referral of the petition to the committee held a hearing on the petition on the 12th October 2016 here at Parliament. During the hearing, the petitioners informed the committee that the exploitative and discriminatory practices taking place at the college, and these practices, along with other factors, had given rise to the submission of the petition to the NCOP. They further informed the committee that some of the following exploitative and discriminatory practices were taking place at the college. A large number of black learners fail or drop out, and there are no plans in place to reduce or level the failure or dropout rate of black learners. As part of its recruitment process, the college requires learners to a contract with only the services SITA and not with the National Skills Fund. The college does not accommodate or provide means to local-based learners as such. Only learners from outside the province benefit from the accommodation and meals offered by the college, yet all learners have more or less the same funders. The college makes unauthorized and unwarranted deductions against learners' stipends. In or around December 2014, the college required learners to sign for unpaid leave because host employers were closing for the Christmas holidays. The college management forgets or falsified the signatures of learners for administrative purposes. The entire college staff complement is made up of only white staff members, and some of them are related, either married to one another or blood relatives. And during work placements, white learners, the college places only white learners and not black learners with suitable host employers, and he ensures that they carry out duties or work related to their specific trade and field of study. Submission on behalf of Africa Skilled College were led by the managing director of college. In her oral submissions, the managing director of the college submitted that there was learner dissatisfaction in March 2015, and this led learners to stage protest action. She further submitted that after the protest action, the college implemented a number of curative processes and actions such as the strengthening of learner support service system, the creation of a learner representative committee, the regularization of communication with learners, the updating of learner induction, and the splitting up of learners during induction per funder, which is SITA, to eliminate confusion. In responding to some of the specific complaints made by the petitioners against the college in the petition, the managing director informed the committee that, in her view, the complaints were prompted by a misunderstanding of how the college operates as a private service provider. She also explained that the different sponsors have different payment structures and deliverables, and the stipends amounts vary between the different sitters from 1,500 to 2,500 per month. She added that because the various sitters do not always pay learners on time, learners are under the mistaken impression that the college takes their monies. With respect to allegation or complaints of the ill treatment of learners, she submitted that the college has continual strive to treat learners fairly. She further submitted that after the learners submitted a petition to the college, after staging the protest against March 2015, the college held a total of 7 meetings with learners, and several solutions emanated from these meetings. As regards the complaints of racism at the college, she informed the committee that the college has been in operation for a period of 10 years, and its 10 years of operation, there had been no formal complaints of racism lodged against the college. Chairperson, the recommendation of the committee notes that the complaints contained in the petition fall within the competence and purview of the National Department of Higher Education. The committee, therefore, recommends that the petitioners refer the complaints contained in the petition to the National Department of Higher Education in order for the complaints to be thoroughly investigated and resolved. In closing, Chairperson, the committee recommends that the House adopt the report on the Africa Skills petition. I so move, sir.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the report be agreed to in accordance with Rule 7.1. I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to voting on the question. Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape, iyavumelana ne-report isihlalo.
Free State.
Free State, iyamuhela, Honorable Chairperson.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal, stem sam, Diberag.
Limpopo.
Limpopo re a dumela.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga agrees.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape agrees.
Northwest.
We support, Chair.
Western Cape.
Western Cape agrees.
9 provinces voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 8th and the 9th orders of the day.
Consideration of report of Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests, alleged contravention by Honorable B. Mbete of clauses 4.1.3 and 4.1.5 of the Code of Ethical Conduct and Disclosure of Members' Interests, and second report of the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests on the late disclosures for 2016.
Honorable Singh, the Joint Committee Chair on Ethics and Members' Interest.
Thank you, Chair. And the report of the Joint Committee of Ethics and Members' Interest on the alleged contravention of Honorable Bimbete of clause 4.1.3 and 4.1.5 of the Code of Ethical Conduct and Disclosures of Members' Interest dated 6 September 2017. The Office of the Registrar of Members' Interest received complaint from Mr. John Steenhuisen, MP. The complaint against Madam Speaker, copy of the complaint together with an annexure was attached for ease of reference. In summary of the complaint alleged, on the 9th of February 2017, Madam Speaker, in a personal capacity, hosted a speaker's ball at Rotunda Bay Hotel in Camps Bay, following the State of the Nation address. To ensure the success of the event, services of different service providers were enlisted by and or on behalf of Madam Speaker. At the time of complaining, it was alleged that some of these service providers remained unpaid and had started instituting legal proceedings against Madam Speaker for non-payment of services rendered. The complainant alleged that, in view of the above alleged conduct, Madam Speaker firstly contravened clause 4.1.3 of the Code of Ethical Conduct and Disclosures of Members' Interest, the code which requires members of Parliament in all occasions to act in accordance with the public trust placed in them. Secondly, Madam Speaker alleged contravened clause 4.1.5 of the code, which requires members of Parliament to maintain public confidence and trust in the integrity of Parliament, thereby endangering the respect and confidence in Parliament. Response by Madam Speaker of the National Assembly. The Madam Speaker responded as follows. On the 9th of February 2017, a function billed the annual Speaker's Ball was hosted at the Rotunda Bay Hotel in Camps Bay, following the State of the Nation address. This was the second year that this event was held in exactly the same format, and there was no complaints and allegations of breach of any code or rule previously. The organizers hosted the event in celebration of the acknowledgement of the leadership of women in society, including herself as Speaker. The event was privately organized by Ms. Nonkululeko Nkoseli, the main organizer, and it was funded and resourced through private funding. The organizers contracted a novice, an event company, to organize and manage the event on behalf of the main organizer. The function was not initiated, hosted, organized, funded or resourced by Parliament or the Office of the Speaker. The Speaker was in capacity as a guest. Madam Speaker did not, in her capacity, act as an initiator, organizer, or host of the annual Speaker's Ball, nor did the organizer act on behalf in organizing or hosting the event. 1.2, funds or resources, or facilitate funding for the resources, or obtained funding or resources from private donors and funders for this event, nor did anyone do so on behalf of the Speaker. 1.3, enter into a verbal or written agreement or undertaking or acknowledge of debt concluded in relation to the event, nor did anyone do so on her behalf. Consequently, at no stage did she, in her capacity as Speaker whatsoever, become liable for any expenses incurred in relation to this event. In summary, it was an event organized privately by the main organizer, and she was informed private donors funded it, with guests being members of parliament and persons from civil society. For the avoidance of any doubt, Madam Speaker categorically states that she did not enter into any contractual relationship or of this event. At any stage did she become liable for any expense rising from this event. In a few days after the event, she became aware of novice had not been paid what was owed by the organizers. She was further made aware that as a consequence, novice could not pay the service providers it entered into contracts with. She thereupon made inquiries from the main organizer of the event and facilitated engagement between the main organizer and the event of novice to speedily and amicably resolve the matter. At all times after the event, she only acted in support of the role to the main organizer to assist her in resolving the matter by the speedy payment of the monies owed. She was informed that the money due to a service provider was paid to novice. In the following paragraph, Madam Speaker answered the allegations made against her. Alleged breach of clause 4.1.3 and 4.1.5 of the code. Clause 4.1.3 provides that members must act on all occasions in accordance with the trust placed in them. Clause 4.1.5 provides that members should maintain public confidence and trust in the integrity of Parliament and thereby engender the respect and confidence that society needs to have in Parliament as a respected institution. 2. Her understanding of Mr. Steenhuisen's complaint against her is that she, in her personal capacity, or someone else on her behalf, concluded an agreement with the events company, Novice, to organize an annual speakers ball on her behalf, and that she only paid them the monies owed late, and that constitutes a breach of clause 4.1.3 and clause 4.1.5 of the code. Even if this version of Mr. Steenhuisen is correct, which she strongly denies for the above reasons stated, Madam Speaker strongly disagrees that the late payment of a private death of a member of Parliament should not constitute a breach of the clause 4.1.3 and clause 4.1.5 of the code. As broad as the wording of clause 4.1 is, at no stage did Parliament agree through the inclusion of this clause 4.1.3 and 4.1.5 that private debts members of Parliament not paid timelessly are included as a breach of their code. This was never the purpose of which Parliament created the Ethics Code. Such an approach would lead to an absurd precedent that members would have to be brought before a committee for breaching the code in each instance in respect of which there is a strong complaint against a member that a private debt payment by that member is not done timelessly. Parliament Ethics Committee will become a debt collector, having to deal with each complaint of a debt who alleged that a member of Parliament is not timelessly paid with a repayment as a breach of the code. She submits that even the incorrect version of Mr. Steenhuisen should not should and could never amount to breach of the code, and that she should end the inquiry. She voluntarily decided to place her correct version of the events to the above committee. As Speaker of a political head of the National Assembly, she is mindful of the responsibility to act in the best interest of the institution. In this regard, she confirmed that her obligation indeed to act in accordance with the public trust placed in her, as indicated above. The office of the Speaker never organized or funded this function.
Honorable Singh, can you conclude?
Thank you. In her private capacity,
Yeah, you are correct, Honorable Mokoele.
was not
Yeah.
involved in organizing and hosting and concluding the funding of this event. Accordingly, she therefore did not in any capacity play a pivotal role in organizing the event. I thank you. Chair,
Conclude with the ninth one.
Chair, the ninth one is for noting,
Okay.
and I've concluded. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question in respect of the eighth order. The question is that the report be agreed to. Remember, he said the ninth one is just for noting, so we're not going to be voting for the ninth one. So we'll be voting for only the eighth one. In accordance with Rule 7.1, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to voting. Eastern Cape,
Eastern Cape iyavumelana ne-report isihlanu.
Free State,
Free State iyadumela, Chair.
Gauteng,
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu Natal,
KwaZulu-Natal iyayixhasa.
Limpopo, Mpumalanga,
Mpumalanga agrees.
Northern Cape,
Northern Cape agrees.
Northwest,
Bokone Bophirima ya amogela raporoto.
Western Cape,
Western Cape disagrees. We're saying no.
9 provinces voted, then 8 provinces voted in
seven.
favor. I
Seven,
therefore
seven.
declare the report agreed
Chair,
to.
7. He didn't agree. We amukhet, we acknowledge it, not. He didn't accept or agree. He acknowledged the report. Acknowledged the report. The translation must translate. He had acknowledged why amukhela. It's acknowledgement. Asugu dumalana.
Honorable
He-
Mokoele.
8. So it's 7.
Honorable Mokoele, I don't want to subject it to a discussion, but I can confirm with Ntebe. Northwest,
Ke amogela raporoto in English. I accept the report.
uh, 8 provinces voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The 9th, honorable members, the 9th report will be noted as the committee has not finalized the sanction for the House to be able to vote. The secretary will read the 10th order, which is the last order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Trade and International Relations and Select Committee on Economic and Business Development, Joint Oversight Report to Gauteng Province.
Honorable Makuwe, the chairperson of the Select Committee, Trade and International Relations.
Honorable Chairperson and members, it is my pleasure to present this report on oversight conducted in the province of Gauteng by the Select Committees on Trade and International Relations and the Select Committee on Economic and Business Development. The oversight was done during the week of the 30th of August to the 2nd of September 2016. The purpose of the oversight was to assess the work of the Department of Trade and Industry with a particular focus on industrial policy and its contribution to growth in the manufacturing and other export-led operations. Secondly, to receive a briefing on plans and progress on employment creation and skills development in relation to the BMW Automotive's Brown investment in Roslyn, Pretoria, amounting to an investment of 6.1 billion rand in that year. Also, thirdly, to receive a briefing by the National Department of Transport and PRASA on the transport hub initiatives, including the plans on the manufacturing of rail coaches. Fourthly, to visit the Transnet Kuduspoort rail coaches manufacturing plant, and then also to receive progress reports on the replacement of the old rolling stock and assembly of new rail coaches under the auspices of the multi-billion Gibela Consortium project. Then, to receive a briefing by Gautrain CEO on the Gautrain projects, and then to receive a briefing from the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport on their transport plans, to receive a briefing from the National Lotteries Commission on its work. Then finally, Chair, to visit the extended public works projects around Soweto. And the projects that we visited was Persevere Until Something Happens, PUSH, which is a non-profit organization in El Dorado Park, Ikusasa Letu Youth Project in Freedom Park, the Devlin Community Housing Project, and the Shomang Sebenzani Development Organization in Alexander Township. But lastly, Chairperson, we also visited tourism development sites in Soweto. And we are proud on this day when we are remembering the legacy of Mr. Sam Nzima, who took that historic photo of Hector Peterson when he was killed during the protest in 1976, that is so adequately displayed at the Hector Peterson Memorial in Orlando. Chairperson, the full report of the oversight provides elaborate details on each of the institutions we were able to visit. Suffice to say that we were well received and our efforts delivered satisfactory results. We thank all Select Committee members for their rigorous engagement with those that received, those that guided, and those that briefed us. We also appreciate the competent manner in which our support staff recorded proceedings aptly stated in the oversight report that is dated the 1st of November 2016. Chair, I will not go into the synopsis of the report, but then just say that we were quite impressed by how we were received, by the content of the information that was shared with us by all those that we visited. It highlighted to us how much people in the communities value our oversight role and our visiting them as members of parliament, particularly the non-profit organizations and community-based organizations that we have visited. However, Chairperson, the Joint Select Committee learned that the BMW person responsible for the briefing prior to the tour of the plant has been held up somewhere. Our hosts that were present speculated that he could be at another gate to the plant. Communication was eventually established, and we were informed that he had his diary mixed up. For a corporate business, Chairperson, this was completely unacceptable.
Honorable Makoe, sorry. Let me take Honorable Gaylor Honorable Kayla, why are you raising your hand?
No, I just want to find out if the member declared the gift that he got from BMW. Thank you.
No, Honorable Kayla, it's out of order. Continue, Honorable Makua.
I take offense at that accusation, Chairperson. We don't do oversight to take gifts. We do our oversight to enhance the commitment of this government to deal with the poverty, unemployment, and inequality challenges that confronts our nation, a nation that we are very proud of. Back to BMW, Chairperson. The leader of our delegation subsequently inquired from members of parliament on the way forward. 3 out of 5 MPs expressed their disappointment at the unprofessional conduct of BMW. The tour was subsequently called off. Chairperson, let me just highlight the tourism in Soweto. The delegation was accompanied and briefed by representatives from the provincial and national departments of tourism to provide information on tourist attraction spots in Soweto. We visited tourism sites in Valakazi Street, in Orlando, and in Nasrec. So much so, Chair, that one of our members of the Select Committee, when we visited the site in Nasrec, refused to get back into the vehicle, but wanted to participate in the bungee jumping that is available at that site. Chair, I must also mention our experience with the Persevere Until Something Happens NPO based in El Dorado Park, but working in the communities adjacent to it, like Pimville and also Kliptown. They are busy with a program there where they recruit unemployed matriculants and assist these unemployed young people who have passed their matric to prepare themselves for the world of work. Because we know many of our young people are discriminated against because they do not have experience. This NPO provides on-the-spot training in its offices and other non-profit organizations to equip these young people with the experience that is required for them to eke out a living for themselves. Chairperson, the oversight report concludes with a list of recommendations. I will not go into the detail thereof. Honorable members, we kindly request you, on behalf of the members of this select committee, to receive this condensed version of the report. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 7.1, I shall first allow the opportunity to provinces to make declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to voting. Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape support, Chair.
Free State.
Free State, amohela, Chair.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees.
KwaZulu Natal.
KwaZulu Natal supports the report.
Limpopo. Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga agrees.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape supports.
Northwest.
Northwest amogela rapporto, Chair.
Western Cape.
Western Cape agrees.
9 provinces voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution.
Modula Stulo.
Honorable Mukwele.
Ke against le fokole Ntebe a le berekisang la go amogela. Honorable. Mme ntate go amogela le go dumelana ke dio tse pedi tse di sa tshwaneng. go amogela o ka amogela selo mme kwa bofelong wa se dumelane le selo seo se amogetseng so se Mthebe a se buang gore wa amogela wa amogela raporoto ga a dumelane le raporoto wa e amogela wa e accepta ga a dumelane le yone ga a dumelane le report ke dio tse pedi tse di sa tshwaneng go dumelana le go amogela ga se dio tse di tshwanang.
Thank you. Ngiyabonga. Malunga endlu. Malunga endlu lehloniphekile. Malunga endlu wemkhandlu wetifundza lehloniphekile. Ngalelinye ilanga sitawuzama ukuthi sifundzisane letilwimi tethu sivisisane kangcono. Honorable members, ngalelinye ilanga sitawufundzisana ukuthi sathi honorable malunga lendlu lehloniphekile bengilalelile ngalesikhathi nikhuluma manje sekukhuluma mina ngithi ngalelinye ilanga sitawufundzisana ukuthi lamalwimi ethu siwati kangcono sikhone kuwakhuluma ngekuwahlonipha nekuwahumusha ngendlela le right so manje ngiletheni lethuba ngivume ukuthi that concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, you are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the house. The house is adjourned.